Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Startup Talk. And today we're talking about value-based marketing. Now, marketing is one of the biggest challenges for business owners because it's such a big topic. There's so much you can and should do, although, should you? So, there's a lot of stuff you have to learn, and the whole process just feels a lot like school. But it doesn't have to be that way. So, if you're ready to stop sucking at marketing, then today is the episode for you. We're going to talk about what social media platforms is the best for your business, how to sell every day without feeling gross about it, and why marketing is about problem solving and not just Facebook ads. Well, if you're new to the show, welcome. My name is Saskia and I help you be the extraordinary entrepreneur you're meant to be. And one way that I do this is by hosting Startup Talk. Every week, I host a new guest and we'll cover a topic that will help you grow as an entrepreneur and start up or level up your business. So join me every week here on Thursday and connect with fellow entrepreneurs, share your best practices, your lessons learned, your wins, and your frustrations so we can all grow together. And of course, make sure to subscribe. And whether you're listening in live or watching the replay, share your thoughts in the comments. That section is there for a reason. Let us know what you think. If you're not new to the show, welcome back. Of course, welcome back. Now, you might have seen on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and of course here that the Startup Suite has been renamed to the Entrepreneur Suite. And if you missed it, if you're not, let me tell you a bit why I did that and what it means for the show. I promise I will keep it short and then afterwards we will talk more about value-based marketing. But I did want to give that update before we got started. Now, the great thing about Startup Talk, about talking with all these amazing people, is that I learn a lot of new stuff as well. And given the amazing discussions I've had, for instance, with Nadine van Lierop about finding your voice as a business, I realized that I wanted to get more specific with my own voice of my business. And I know when I started, it was quite general, but that was okay. I didn't want to figure it out until perfection and then get started. I decided to get started, learn along the way, and adjust course when needed. So I did the work, and I realized that what really resonated with me is that, to me, being an entrepreneur is like being a superhero. You know, you're meant for more than just the ordinary 9 to 5. You're meant for the extraordinary. You don't want to work for a boss, you want to be your own boss. And you have this calling in you. You cannot not do it. But of course, on your quest to greatness, you have challenges to overcome, both personal. Do you have what it takes and how to apply your entrepreneurial superpowers? But also challenges for your business, how to validate your idea, how to write a good business plan, how to launch with impact, how to find your customers and make them fall in love with you. Well, my goal, my entrepreneurial superpower, is to help you be that superhero entrepreneur, to help you find your way on your quest to greatness so you can be the extraordinary entrepreneur you're meant to be. And so the focus is on you, the entrepreneur. And so I decided that the name of my company needed to reflect that. So I renamed it to the Entrepreneur Suite. And all socials and even the website is now updated. So instead of the Startup Suite, you can now go to theentrepreneursuite.com. Now, what does it mean for Startup Talk? Actually, not too much. I like the name of Startup Talk. I like the concept of Startup Talk. I like all the people I meet here live on the show. And I think the best analogy is that the house will remain the same, but the paint's going to be different. And even there, I love my colors of the show as well, so I'm not going to change those. But it's the nuances here and there. So you'll hear me talk about your quest to greatness, about your origin story, about the superhero in yourself. And if you like that, then make sure to subscribe because there's a lot of awesomeness to come. As I said, we're live every Thursday at 7 o'clock, so this time on Facebook and YouTube. And if that time doesn't work for you, you can rewatch the episode on Facebook, YouTube, and the website of the Startup Suite. And it's also available as a podcast on Spotify and iTunes. So however you're tuning in, make sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Now, let me tell you about our guest of today. It's the energizing Marketing Marvel Megan. She is a 5 times award-winning entrepreneur, author, a podcast host, and a generally over-caffeinated person, which, as a fellow coffee addict, I totally relate to. She helps entrepreneurs and bloggers take their business to the next level with value-based marketing coaching. And we've already spoken about some marketing aspects in some previous episodes of Startup Talk, but that's of course because it's such a big topic. So you can't cover it all at once. And it also shows how much there is out there to learn, which typically leads us to making it overcomplicated. So I'm very happy that Megan is here today to lighten our load, to not having it as homework while still attracting enthusiastic customer. So let's give a warm welcome to Megan Brame. Hi, Megan.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, well, thank you for being on the show. How are you today?
Caffeinated, as promised.
I am following your. It's Today was the day for coffee. Today was a very good day for coffee. I think any day is a good day for coffee,
I
right?
think so. I think
Yeah.
so. Yeah. Well, I'm
So
thrilled to be here. Thank you so much.
yeah, well, it's a pleasure hosting you. So Megan, you're an award-winning advanced digital marketing strategist. How did that came to be? What is your origin story?
Oh, well, unfortunately, it was not on another planet or anything fun like that. I began.
Wait, you
I,
weren't born on Asgard?
I was not. I was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which might be its own planet. I'm not sure. I started being an entrepreneur in college. My first business was a soap and skincare and home fragrance, so like candles and things, company. And I ran that for close to a decade. It was this beautiful little, yeah, it was really cool. It was a little industry darling. Like it got all this press mentions. I had this diehard fan base and got all these awards, but I would not give up control of anything. And that was such a detriment. I did the packaging design, the customer service, the bookkeeping, the product making, you name it.
Oh, wow.
So
That's a lot.
yeah. And one day I was talking to my husband in the kitchen and we were just talking about our day, normal stuff. And I was telling him about what was going on in my studio. And he said, it really doesn't sound like you're very happy. And that just kind of like threw me for a loop. Like, wait, what do you mean I don't sound happy? And I had to think about it for a while. This person who I knew and who knew me so well was saying that I was saying these things that I don't sound that happy. So what is it I'm saying that's making him think that? Am I not happy? And I started to realize that this company that I had created, this dream career, had turned into a job I hated. I hated to go to work. I hated to there was just this turmoil and I couldn't love it anymore. So I decided that it was time to just make a clean break and close it. I could have sold it, but it was like a bad breakup. You want to be done and you want to move on. And I remember the day that I left my studio, the lease had ran out and I turned around at the doorway. I was like, I should probably look back. Like that's something you should do. Just like take
this epic moment. You look behind one last time before you turn off the light, or the light maybe was already turned off, and you close the door. And this like with this closing of the door, I here now pronounce my business done.
I leave this all behind. Yeah,
all behind. Well, that sounds very strong to just walk away from something like that.
Well, I have to tell you, I felt nothing. I don't
Then you were doing the right thing.
Yeah, I felt nothing closing that door, but I will tell you when I was living in New York City at the time that I could have skipped to the subway to go home if I wasn't so clumsy. I was just elated and so excited. But I had to figure out what I was going to do next, right? Like, what am I going to be when I grow up? I was this person.
So you didn't have a next plan yet. You just knew I need to leave this behind me, and then the world is my oyster.
Yes. Well, or the world is big and terrifying, and what do I do next? So I realized that one thing that I really enjoyed doing throughout that whole mess was I really enjoyed hearing about marketing and learning about how to create these marketing tactics that actually moved the needle when it came to sales. Because, as this was my business and it was pretty small, New York City, tiny everything. So I didn't have a ton of money to do advertising or promotion like that. So I really had to learn how to be scrappy. And that turned into learning how to be effective in marketing. So when I realized that that was something that really lit me up and made me happy, made me excited, it was something I really loved to learn about and do. That's when I was like, that's it. That's what I'm going to go do. So I had this blog for a while called Handmade Brooklyn. It was about meeting all of these amazing entrepreneurs in Brooklyn, but it started to turn into me just talking about my experiences as an entrepreneur and the lessons that I had learned, the things I wanted to help people with. And it transitioned into me helping entrepreneurs specifically with marketing, talking about social media, marketing campaigns, making people stop being afraid to work on their marketing and help their business flourish. And so that is my hero's journey to where I am now.
Wow, that sounds amazing. So your journey also included you being awarded. So that was for the soap company, right? Or what were these awards in? How did that happen? How do you become a five times award winning digital marketing strategist?
So my first awards were in the soap company, and I would go to these industry trade shows, which were super expensive, and I really should not have been there, but they were the chance to get your product into stores and get all this attention. And they would have these industry awards where they would have things like best new product, best eco-friendly product, this kind of thing. And so your company, your product was up against Crabtree and Evelyn, um, all of these just multi-million dollar conglomerates that I
The
could
big
never,
the
I
big
had my
guys.
tiny little booth. They had these like storefronts, and but I won. I won these awards that said most innovative use of materials and best new product in the organic category. And just, I realized that it wasn't going to be about how much money I could throw at things. It was going to be about how I could tell the story of my products. And so when I started doing marketing, I just took that with me and talked about, instead of all of these things that my product can do or my service can do, I'm going to talk about the story behind it. And that's what's going to draw people in. And so that's how I got those awards. It wasn't any Blackwater bribes or anything. It was actually
Well, you also have those awards, of course. It's like you have these companies that's like they come up with a category in which you can be the best, you know. So I
right.
could be the best live stream with a blue background or something. But
Yeah.
hey, I won an award, you know. But it wasn't that.
And for the record, just for people out there, awards really do nothing for you. I get to say I won 5 awards, but they're more just shiny objects than anything.
Okay.
So don't feel like you have awards or you have to have recognition. They're just shiny things. They're
Yeah.
behind me. They're clear glass awards that you can't even see, and I'm just terrified I'm going to break them one day. So it's like, don't worry about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think they can be a nice extra in the moment, but it's not why you do the
Right.
business you do. It's not why you're in the business. So I love what you just said about telling the story of your brand. So it's not about what is that your product does or the specific characteristics of that product, but about the story behind it. So how do you find the story behind your product?
That's an excellent question. Oh, I think it goes back to what got you doing this in the first place. So when I was doing soap, I did it, one, because I wanted to. I wanted to learn how to do this kind of thing. I thought it was really interesting. And two, my cousin Ronnie was born with some really serious allergies, both food and environmental. And my family was very close. So I learned about ingredients and things like that because of him and what we had to learn how to avoid. So when I got to tell that story and bring that into the reason why I was doing the things I did, it drew people into that because, oh, I have allergies, or oh, I hate vitamin E or something with it. That's not right, but I hate gluten, I hate whatever.
Yeah.
So when you're trying to figure out the story behind your product, you really just have to break it down to what was like the catalyst that made you think this needs to be in the world. I'm not finding it, or I'm finding things there that aren't doing exactly what I want. Like, what was the catalyst that made you do that? And tell that story. It can be something really simple, like I wanted to. Or it can be, I had a cousin who had allergies. It can be both of those things. People are interested in the why. So open up and tell them why.
Yeah, what is your why? And I think that that's also, it's always something personal, right? And that helps people connect with you as well on a personal level. It's not like, oh, she does soap. It's no, she does soap because she wants to help people who have allergies for common soaps and yeah, help them in this way.
And I think a lot of entrepreneurs get sort of tied down into like, I don't know why I wanted to make money. That's why I did it. Well, you can say that honestly, because we're in an authentic world now. We're in a world where people want the transparency. And if you're just saying like, I wanted to become a coach because I wanted to make money. Well, why did you want to make money? Well, because I hated my job. What did you hate about your job? The office sucked. The people sucked. The water cooler was terrible. The coffee was terrible. Like, tell that story. Tell the story of why you went into this, why you rejected the world as it was and decided that you needed to go do something else. That's the
Exactly.
story. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really digging deep into your why, not just asking yourself why once, but keep asking yourself until you get to that core truth.
Yeah.
I want the freedom. I want the lifestyle. I don't want the ordinary. I want the extraordinary. I want to help people. I think that's very powerful. So
Yeah.
I love that. So then you have your why and you have your story. Then what? How do you share that with the world in a world in which social media everywhere is overcrowded? How do you?
It's awful. It's so awful. And I'm putting a line in the sand that I don't want to be on Clubhouse, and I'm actually going to be on Clubhouse next week for somebody, but after that I'm deleting it. Like, I'm not on it.
You fell for it.
I did.
No,
And I had this like, no, I'm not going to do it. And then somebody said, would you please come and do a talk? And I'm like, fine, I'll do it for you. But so,
well, there's nothing wrong with Clubhouse. Let me start with that. But
exactly.
it's
No,
you
there's
can
not.
be everywhere nowadays. You could have a full day as a solo entrepreneur or a full side hustle, however you want to call it. You can be everywhere on social media and never have to sell one product or one service or anything like that.
Yeah. And they keep coming up with new ones all the time. It's so overwhelming. And the thing that I always tell people when they've decided that they want to become an entrepreneur, they have this product or service or idea, you have to figure out who your people are. I know in the beginning it feels like, well, I'll just sell to anybody that wants to give me money. I don't care.
Yeah,
Like,
everybody needs my service. The whole world can benefit from this. The
exactly.
same for me. Everyone should watch the startups, the entrepreneur suite.
Who's got their credit card out? Great, come on
Yeah.
down. Like, but what you realize is that the people who actually need your product, your service, whatever, they are the ones that are going to be the loudest and the most adamant and the ones that are going to drive your business forward. So when you're able to nail that down and kind of funnel it down into like just figuring out this one ideal person, and you can even be crazy and make it an imaginary friend and name it. I've named mine.
What was his or her name?
Yes, exactly.
No, what was her name? What, or his
Tori.
name?
Hers was
Tori.
Tori. Yes.
Okay. That's a good name. That's a good name.
Yeah, I liked it. And I felt that it was just that she sounded like Tori to me in my head. And so, but then you start to think about, all right, I figured out who Tori is, what kind of age she is, what she likes, where she lives, what she does for fun, what she hates doing, all of these things. Then you start to realize that Tori's a millennial, and that means that she's probably on Instagram looking for things like, plant porn and house like FOMOs and beautiful shots and luxury travel and all this stuff. But she's not really on Twitter that much. So I'm going to leave Twitter out of the equation because that's just not really her thing. She's more into Instagram and Pinterest and things like that. So since I know she is this person, because I've figured this out, I've looked into who she is, who I think she is.
So how do you figure that out? For instance, you have a Tori. Say I have a Steve. I have a Steve, and Steve is a millennial as well. And but how do you figure out where Steve is hanging out? Is it because it can be different not only on age but also on locations and stuff like that? Is there a general guide like this is for Facebook? I know Facebook is more towards the boomers nowadays, and the millennials are more on Instagram, and then you have the Gen Z is on TikTok, and
Right.
I have no idea who's on Clubhouse. Who is on Clubhouse? anyone with an iPhone, because it's not out there for Android yet. But how do
And
you
there's a
figure
new
that
one
out?
that's coming out that is Android friendly, and it's not Clubhouse. So join the party. The good news is that most of these companies now are public facing companies, which means they have to list their demographic information to attract investors, because the more data they know and the more data they've stolen from us, the more that you are able to use that to your advantage and see, like, okay, I think that I'm going after millennial coaches who want to learn how to grow their coaching business. So based on me Googling Instagram demographics and coming up with Instagram's demographic page, I can see that it is heavily female, heavily millennial, and there is a big category there of business coaches and marketing coaches or whatever, that kind of industry. So I know that that's there. But if I look on Twitter or I look on LinkedIn, it's not as predominant. Or, which is just as important, they might be on LinkedIn, but are they on LinkedIn for your services or are they on LinkedIn for something else? So,
Yeah.
if say like, I used to be a director of marketing for a company that did recruitment. They did, like job searches and headhunters and things like that. And I would fight the sales team, like, go in your corner and calm down fight about, we're not going on Instagram because nobody's going on Instagram looking for jobs. People are
No.
going on LinkedIn looking for jobs. We need to put
Exactly.
our effort where people are going for the thing that we need. And so that's another big part that I always coach people to get towards. Where are they going and how are they using the service? Make that the lowest hanging fruit and just go do that thing.
Okay. Okay. Well, I think that's a very valuable insight as well, and really also looking at what are the demographics, why are people going there. So then you have your platform, or you have one or two platforms. How many would you ideally recommend? And of course, you nowadays have these like Buffer and Publer where you can, post to everything all at once. Would you recommend that? Would you do, how many platforms would you focus on, and would you differentiate your message on them?
I think that what you really need to do is focus on one platform to build. But I'm a realist and I understand that that's not going to happen. So I do advocate using for things like Buffer or Planoly or, any of these schedulers to keep a presence on the secondary platforms that you think might work just as well. But for creating your primary content, you really should be focusing on just one platform. And then you can repurpose all of that content and spread it out. But just think about, I really want to get my message across on YouTube. So I'm going to dedicate all my time on YouTube. And then all those videos I can cut up, I can put as reels or TikTok videos, or
Yeah.
LinkedIn has video now. Like, I can repurpose all of that content. I can transcribe it, make it into a blog post, all of these things. But my recommendation is one, I know that that's not realistic. Focus on one and spread out the rest onto different platforms using the same content.
Okay. Okay. That sounds good. So then my next question. So you have your voice, you have your platform, and then you want to stand out in that platform. You want to attract people, say it's on YouTube, say it's on Instagram. I had the most funny thing last week. I had a week where it was busy, my week was all over the place, and I didn't post on Instagram for, I don't know, 3 days. Suddenly 5 more followers. That was more than the whole month before. I was like, how should I not post on Instagram anymore so that people actually come to Instagram more? How is it? So my question is, how do you stand out? How do you find people that resonate with you?
The easiest way, and this is going to sound so stupidly simple and frustrating, is to be consistent. And I know that just goes against what you just said. Like, you didn't post, you got new followers. But if you are dedicated to one or two platforms, the easiest way for you to stand out is to be consistent because of the way the algorithms work. So if you think about any kind of platform as a marathon where you just got this huge crowd of people in the beginning and you're like and social distancing is not a thing in this thing. And so, so you're just up against all these people and you all start at the same time. But the more you keep going, the further you go, the more the space just opens up and the less you're competing against people. So algorithms are stupidly lazy. They don't want to work hard, but they want to keep their people on the platform as long as possible so they can show more ads and get more data and make more money. The way that they would know who to use is that they're going to look at people who consistently deliver content that is appealing to a certain person. And they know all of that data better than any of us. So when you become the little algorithm darling that the algorithm thinks, okay, I know that Megan always posts at least once a day. I need to keep this person who is interested in marketing, which we know from watching them on the app, interested so that we can show them more ads. So since I know Megan is reliable, I'm going to start pulling stuff from her, as opposed to Megan 2 over somewhere else that only posts once or twice a month. I can't trust her to deliver consistent content, so we'll keep an eye on her, but I'm going to deal with Megan 1 instead.
Okay, so it's about being consistent. But how do you combine that? So we have our why, we have our voice, our message. How are we going to? How do you tell a story? For instance, on Instagram, it's very visual. Should you make beautiful pictures, or I'm just trying to find, like, you have your story and you want to have a consistent post every day, and you want to have a bit of sales but not too much sales. I guess you just also want to add value, you want to add just content. How do you go about that? How do you find your content for the week or the day, or how do you tackle this kind of stuff?
That's an excellent question. And I think that the easiest way to do it is not to get bogged down in details. All you need to do in the beginning is just get down that consistency. Even if they're just horrible pictures, even if they're just, like a quote on a black background and you can't do any better, that's fine. Just get into the habit of delivering consistent content, and then you can kind of, work on it as you go. When you get into that habit, you need to start thinking about, Gary Vee had a really great book, and I'm a little dubious on Gary Vee, but he had this book called Jab, 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 Right Hook, which was value, 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 sale. And I think that's a great way to get started thinking about your content. Thinking about just what's going to bring someone in, bring them in, bring them in, bring them in, then ask them for a sale. Then bring them in, bring them in, bring them in. So if you've done your work and you know what Tori's into, you know that she loves plant pictures or she loves marketing topics or things like that, you start to incorporate that into your content strategy. And, you post pictures of you with your plants, or you post marketing quotes that she hasn't seen before, things like that. And you start to intrigue them by utilizing the things that you know about them to be true. That's what brings them in, and that's what starts making them, piquing their interest in what you have to say. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think it does. Well, one question I do have is, of course, especially if you look at YouTube, it's the biggest search engine, or the second biggest search engine in the world. And how do you, so there's so much content, and how do you find your for instance, your weekly content or your weekly content on Instagram? Because people not often, or on Facebook, people don't often just search for be a good marketing strategist, or how do you find the major problem what people have, but how do you find stuff that keeps it fresh and keeps it engaging? Because you can't post plant pictures 7 days in the week.
Right. I think the easiest thing to do, and this is the strategy that I have used, is just to answer questions. And if you don't have a fan base, I don't mean that you have to wait for a fan base to answer questions. Think about, if you were at a cocktail party, what would somebody ask you about your job? Like, well, what does a marketing strategist do? Well, I'll answer that. What social media should I be on? Well, I'll answer that. I'm actually doing a deep dive series right now on my Instagram channel about all the different Instagram schedulers there are and putting them up against each other. Because it's been such a big topic for people of, like, I don't know which one to do. I don't know where to put my money. This one's really expensive. This one's not expensive. Is this better? So I'm answering the questions for people. If you feel like, well, I don't really know what questions people are asking, you can go onto Google Trends. You can just type it into Google and see what kind of alternate keywords come up. But what I would say is think about a high level topic like social media, like what social media should I use? And then start breaking that down into a series and think about how you can create content that answers nuggets in that question so
I
that
love
you have
that.
this, yeah, you have this whole well-rounded ecosystem of value-based content that is helping people and keeping you consistent with content, answering questions, setting you up as the authority, and keeping you top of mind, not only with them, but with the algorithms.
I love that. I think that's such a great analogy. Really thinking about what is something that people would ask me on a cocktail party or on a mixer, where you're like, hey, I can help people with that. I can explain that in simple terms and turn that into a series. I think that's an amazing tip. So sorry, you wanted to?
Oh no, I was just gonna say, like, if you have like a product-based business, so soap, like, why soap? Why vegan soap? Why do you use coconut oil? Why do you use lavender essential oil? All of those things. Like, think about even, I guess, a service. Like, think about your thing as this culmination of things, and then just break it apart and talk about all of those different parts. That's just the easiest, I think.
That's amazing. So I like your example as well with the jab jab hook or the jab 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 hook. Now let's talk about the hook, because a lot of people, or at least I'm one, it's you want to, of course, you want to sell something. You have a business. It's not a hobby. But how do you do it without feeling like, how do you
Weird.
do that?
Yeah.
How do you sell without feeling salesy?
I think the thing that's worked best for me is that instead of thinking of it about what it does for me, so you giving me money means that I get to support myself, or that I get to buy this thing, or I get to pay my Amex bill or something like that. Instead of thinking about it from me, I think about it instead on what the transformation does to them. Why would they buy this thing? So let's say I have a marketing client come and they want to learn marketing coaching, or they want to be coached for marketing. So instead of thinking like, I'm going to get all this money, I'm so excited, what value are they going to get that's going to tell them, yes, I need to hire Megan. Megan is going to be the one who does this for me. What is it in that little landing page, DM, whatever, that tells them this is the thing that is going to help you? So when you flip that, instead of thinking about what it does for me, but what I'm going to do for them, that's what makes it easier. Because I feel like when you start thinking about what the sale does for you, or what you're expecting for, or pricing, or like when you start thinking about it as just a financial transaction, it starts to sound desperate, and it starts
Yeah.
to sound like, like Gollum, like this is my precious. Instead, think of
Yeah.
this. This is going to be the most horrible analogy I've ever done, but think about
I already love it. Tell me, continue.
think about them as Gollum. What is their precious? Give them their precious, and then you'll be able to create that sale and have that sales funnel. So that's, I guess, the most horrible way to put it. Just instead of you
Okay.
being Gollum, make them Gollum.
Make them column. See them as their column. What is their precious? What is it that they want? And how can you help them solve that riddle to win back their precious?
Yes.
I love
What is in my
it.
pocket? Yes.
What is in my pocket? I love that. So next time you make a sale, you're thinking like, "Ooh, there's a column." Let's not think about customers like columns. I know next time I will not be able to be like, haha. You tell me not to think about a yellow crocodile. I'm like, yellow crocodile, right there.
Never call your customers Gollum. Just
No, never do that. Never do that. And if you do, just blame us.
right, exactly. And if you do, make sure that they get the joke. there could be some people that do get that joke and wouldn't
Yeah.
take themselves so seriously. I'd love
Yeah,
that. I
that's
think it'd be hilarious.
yeah, I would be intrigued. I'd be like, ooh, tell me more. Why is this? Tell me more about this precious of mine. Oh, I love that. So Megan, what is the most common myths in social media marketing or digital marketing in your experience?
I think that the biggest myth that I know is that my competitors know what they're doing. I should copy my competitors. I can't tell you how many times I have seen somebody go on a social media platform because they think, well, my competitor's there, so that must be doing something right. Little do they know their competitor's there because they saw their competitor there. And their competitors there because but nobody really knows what they're doing. So instead of feeling FOMO, fear of missing out, instead of feeling that, keep it as boring and scientific as possible. Just look at the data and look at the numbers instead of thinking that I'm feeling this way because I feel like somebody else is doing it and I need to catch up. Look at the data and look at what that tells you and follow that instead of your competitors or your emotions. I think that that's just the number one thing that people really stumble on. And I've done that too. I've seen somebody when I was making soap on, like, I don't know, MySpace or something like that. I'm like, I need a MySpace page, or I need whatever.
Yeah. Well, it's you see it now as well. Everyone wants a clubhouse, and I think I agree. No, I don't think I know. I agree with you, and I want to add to that I think you need to stick to a place where it's authentically you.
Yeah.
Where you can be your authentic self and what works for you. And I know a lot of people typically say, I made it big, I went viral on TikTok or this and this platform, and so can you. Just do X, Y, and Z. But they're not you. You're not them. You have your unique voice. You have your authenticity, and you have your superpower. You don't have their superpower, and that's okay. Stay authentic to yourself.
I think that is not only the best way to go, I think that's just the simplest way too. But it's difficult. It's difficult to.
It's so difficult because shiny object syndrome it's a thing. It's a thing.
We can't talk about it's too much. I think it's very like you have to be confident in yourself, and that is super difficult, especially when you're beginning and you're having imposter syndrome and things like that. But if you stay the course, I feel like it's just going to result in so much more profits, more notoriety, more authority than if you were just trying to chase crumbs that your competitor was leaving behind.
Yeah, stay true to yourself and don't just do something because it works for others. You can try it, you can give it a try, but always check that does it fit with your story, with your why, and your authentic self.
Exactly.
I love that. I think that's good stuff. So, Megan, if people want to learn more about you, where can they go?
You can check me out at meganbrame.com. You can check out all of my goodies at betterbizschool.com. You can follow me on Instagram at Stop Sucking at Business. And you can check out my podcast of the same name, Stop Sucking at Business. I would love to bring you on, have you guys talk about it.
Then we'll continue the session. We'll joke on. We'll just continue from here. I'll bring coffee. It's going to be amazing.
Please do. Yes.
Okay. So yeah, to our viewers, I think we had a very good session today. I really loved your tips about doing the research. Look at demographics of the big social media platforms and what fits with your ideal client, what fits with your Tori, what fits with your Steve. Mm-hmm. I really found it a good tip to think about your why and really your deeply rooted why. What is your story? Why are you doing that? And what does it mean for you? And to get specific, so in your social media account, in your social media platforms, you can have so much content by answering specific questions, and they don't have to be out of the world. I know for myself, I always try to think too complicated. Like, I'm assuming people know what I know, and that's not always the case. But what would someone ask you at a cocktail party? I think that was a very good tip. So that's something certainly I'm going to apply, and I hope the viewers as well. So, Megan, thank you so much for being here today. It was so lovely to host you. I really enjoyed it, and I'm sure my viewers did too.
Thank you so much. It was my pleasure.
I'm happy to hear that. So yeah, if you want to learn more about Megan, go to her website, meganbrame.com and betterbizschool.com, and definitely check out her podcast, Stop Sucking at Business. It sounds amazing. I'm definitely going to check it out. And if you like this kind of content, then make sure to like this video and share your thoughts in the comments. And if you haven't done so, make sure to subscribe to the Entrepreneur Suite. As said, we're live every week. And I'm happy to have you here as well. If you want to know more about me, this show, The Entrepreneur Suite, go to theentrepreneursuite.com. So that's the new website. And of course, join me again next week. Then my guest will be an international award-winning publicist, and we'll talk about how to get media attention. So that will be a great sequel to today's episode. So thank you all for being here with us today. I hope you have a lovely remainder of the day, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye, guys.